Yeah.
How is it trying to release an album during this time? Because it's not the typical like album rollout. Has that been like frustrating? Especially it's your debut album too.
I figured that now more than ever almost, like I think people really like need music, and they I remember in the beginning, particularly when everyone was still in isolation, it was like something that kept people, you know, uh, going and energized, and so in a way I think it was like it was a really nice time to release an album. But then obviously, now when the album is nearly out, and we'd started preparing, we would normally start preparing for a tour, then you kind of see, okay, yeah, if we're never going to be able to tour this album, that would be a shame. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know, what can you do? It's like, I'm really happy that I released the album, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was shocked to find out this was your debut album because I've known you since Wearing Nothing. I saw Wearing Nothing on YouTube years ago, and I was like, "Oh, who is this
No
girl?"
way.
Yeah, and so I've been following you ever since then. And then, of course, the Katy Perry song last year, which I'm a massive Katy Perry fan. So I was like,
Yeah.
Dagny. Um, so I was shocked to find out that this was your first album because it feels like you've been around for a minute. But then I saw that you had like label troubles and you were finding your footing, I guess. But I'm so excited for this album.
I am too. I mean, it's been, I find like sometimes I find, my parents, they collected old newspaper from my
Mhm.
hometown when I was growing up. And, if I was playing music locally, and sometimes the newspaper would write about it. And we have like articles that says, yeah, my debut album is just around the corner. And that's like 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
Holy shit, I really took my time, didn't I?
But this
But
album is so beautiful. Go ahead.
you like it?
Yes, I listened to it this morning. Because I already love Somebody. I've been telling everyone about Somebody. It's one of my favorite songs of 2020. I'm like, listen to this song. So I was really excited to have the opportunity to hear it early, and I wrote down my favorite songs. Let me pull them up. Let Me Cry is the one I've been listening to all morning, and then
Yeah.
Bye Bye Baby was my other immediate favorite.
Oh,
Um,
I'm so happy you say that, because that's one of my favorite too. And I'm
really?
like convinced, like the label, we should really make a cool video or something. But yeah, that's I have a feeling that, it's funny because if, the first time I really like noticed, basically there's a reason why my fans obviously are my fans, because we have a similar taste in music.
Hmm.
And it's been a really nice thing to actually discover during this album process, that like whenever I like, if I doubt anything, or if I'm like, wait, is this the right song, or is this, however I feel about it often is reflected in like how my fans feel about it. So it's been very funny, because a lot of my kind of personal favorites from the album has been the ones that also my listeners have like kind of pointed out as favorites, and I think that's really nice. And
Yeah.
so you're actually, because I just chatted to someone earlier today as well, and they also heard the album, and they said that Bye Bye Baby was also a favorite of their. And I was like, yeah, that's really cool, because I've kind of been holding that as one of my favorites too. So that's good. Thank
Yes.
you.
So tell me about the title, Strangers Lovers, and what like the meaning behind that. And I know you split the album in two for it too. So tell me about the kind of the parts of the album.
Yeah. So when I started working towards this album, well, I started working on it about a year ago, or year and a half ago, and I really like took my time to kind of sit down and properly listen through like the 250 songs that I had lying around for like trying to like shortlist it basically.
Because this has been a long time coming. Yeah. So you had a long list of songs. Wow.
Yeah, and I also think like it just hit me that, it's not always the newest song that's the best just because that's the one you're most excited about, because obviously it's new to you, so it's still exciting. But, I really felt like I needed to like properly give all my songs a listen and a fair chance to like
Hmm.
be part of this album. And I was going to bring them into the studio anyway to rework them and stuff. So it kind of felt like a fresh start a little bit. And then I shortlisted it, and I was down to like 15 songs or whatever. And I was touring around Norway at the time, like with my band. And one flight, I played the whole album, or like kind of the idea of my album, sorry, to my guitarist. And he said, I think this is really, really nice, but it feels like you're telling a story throughout the album, but it feels like two sides of the story. And obviously in my head, I'm still kind of like processing all of this and trying to figure out what is this album like? What am I trying to like? What's the story like? How does it look even like visually? And around that time, it just kind of all fell into places. So obviously I was in a breakup a few years ago, and I think like I spent a lot of time thinking about how this, you go around life and you meet people all the time, and then you might meet someone, but you don't know that, like, fast forward a year or something, they're gonna maybe like become your closest person. Maybe you connect and you become a couple, and you know everything about each other. And so at that point, you've gone from strangers to lovers. And then what I think is so funny and also kind of brutal, it's like when you then split up, you kind of suddenly you can't call them anymore, and you don't know what's going on in their life, like where they meet, like who they hang out with, where they travel, what's going on in their work life, everything. So suddenly now then you've gone from like lovers to strangers again. And so I guess this whole like idea of that, like, and also the very beautiful part of it, like when you fall in love and what a strong feeling that is. And then also the opposite side, when you maybe break up. And I mean, a breakup can be many things, and sometimes it's a necessary breakup or a good breakup even, but it's still like so, it's like a sorrow, there's like this space that's kind of empty after them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a process to go through all of that. So I guess that's kind of where the title came from, just kind of reflecting around all of this, and also I guess in some ways kind of experiencing it.
Yeah, I feel that all too well right now. Because I recently stopped talking to my ex, and it's like for a good reason, but it's just like I don't know, you see like little like Venmo transactions or something, and you're like, oh, what are you doing? Like, what's
absolutely.
It's
weird. It's just such a big contrast, isn't it? Like,
mm-hmm.
And I think, even me, in some ways, like I still friends with my ex, but it's obviously not the way it was. And so there's all these things that are going on that's that you're not part of anymore. And it was like the most natural thing in the world that you were part of it in each other's life.
Yeah.
So it's a process, I think, no matter how and what the breakup is. And yeah. So that's kind of, and also I felt like natural to split the album into two, to be able to kind of tell this journey, like the story, a little bit better, and also to let people, let the listener stay in that feeling, trying to like put all of these songs into one big bowl and just mix them up. It's like one song you're like, oh, and then the next song you're like, hey, and then you're like, so it just felt like an unnatural kind of journey. And by splitting it up like this, I kind of, the listener can like be in the
go
happy
through it, yeah,
kind of go through it and live the emotion a little bit more.
So congrats on It's Only a Heartbreak, the video that came out yesterday. It's so fun. I loved it. Can you tell me about like just how you put that together, especially in the middle of a pandemic, and what was it like, that creative process like?
Definitely, more interesting. I think like I'm just really happy that we actually managed to do it, because obviously the restrictions in Norway, it's like, oh, and then one day it's like this and next day it's like, but I think it's like definitely the most Dagny video that's out there. I mean, maybe that's come over and wearing nothing, or all kind of in a similar, like slightly like just fun and kind of a little bit like not cheeky, but like tongue in cheek, or it was just like I had this idea of the the kind of tree dance, like the tree dancers kind of having the similar vibe and doing that kind of dancing that's like a fun kind of cheeky way of dancing. I don't know, the snappy way of dancing. And I think I was just so like done with doing music videos where it's like 3 minutes of me going like, to the camera.
Like into a camera.
Yeah. I cannot do that another time. Literally, I have to have. That's why I really loved doing the Come Over video as well, because it was so fun and weird and different. And this was the same. Like we spent like that week before we recorded it, like being in the rehearsal room with these two amazing dancers, Christina and Josefina. And you can't necessarily tell, but it's harder than it looks. Like all the little details in the like hands and in the face and in the like how you turn, like, oh my God. I'm like, this is a good for you know, when you feel like you need to read a book to get your head to like you know, train your head a little bit. It felt almost like that. It was like, oh, but it was so much fun. And we had like a 17-hour shoot day, and the mood was just so positive throughout the whole thing. That I think is one of the funnest like video or anything that I've been part of for a long time. It was really, really good time. Yeah.
It's so cool. Yeah, I definitely feel that the choreography bit, because I used to be like in show choir, and like we did a lot of choreography, and it was always, it looks so simple while you're doing it, but like hours of practice and rehearsals and
Exactly. Right? It's so fun because like when you're in creative or like any kind of, you know, if you're a dancer or if you're an actress or if you're a musician, like in my head I always thought, you know, that's kind of similar, like, you know, it's got similar things. But I've always had so much respect for those professions because, and also now that I get to like a tiny little taste of it, just like trying it, you know, for example, dancing, it's like, wow, it's just, you can say so much with dancing. You can communicate so much with dancing. And the way that like, you have to be so aware of your body. And I was so amazed by these two girls that I got to know and that were dancing with me, because they're just so like aware of how their face move and how their every little inch of their body is so controlled. And, you know, with me being the polar opposite, where it's just like limbs flying everywhere. Very tall as well, so it's just like no control. So it was a real good challenge, and I think I needed like a good challenge like that.
It's definitely a skill. Yeah, you have to like be aware, like this hand is there. Yeah, I know exactly what you I
Do
don't
you
miss
love
those things. Say it again.
do you love dancing?
Oh, it's not my forte. You know, I did it for fun in my
Yeah.
show choir, but it's not my strength. Let's say that. I can get by.
Yeah. What's the show choir?
Oh gosh. Did you ever watch like Glee?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that kind of choir where you do like pop songs and
That's
it was,
so cool. That
it
sounds
was
so much.
I did it in college. It was very fun, but looking back at the videos, I'm like, oh gosh.
But does everyone feel like that though when they look back at the videos from their school?
Yeah. And I was so young. I was like 20 then, and I'm 28 now, and I'm just like, oh, who was I? I was a different person. But it was
Oh
so
my
fun.
God.
Yeah.
I wish
Oh
more of
gosh.
that in Norway. I don't think it exists that much.
Oh my gosh. I did a lot of different weird choir groups back in college.
Yeah.
Oh, oh gosh.
But you've tried it now.
I
So
did. It was fun. I would do it
yeah.
again. Okay, I did want to ask, because I said I was a massive Katy Perry fan. I've been for over a decade now. It's been years. So
Yeah.
I really want to know how Love You Like That came to be a part of Never Really Over, and your involvement with that, if there was any, because sometimes they're just like, I like the song, let's do it my way, you know? So I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think there's that's a very good question, because actually well, basically how we kind of got to learn about it was just that, you know, one January, February day or whatever it was, start of 2019, their management just kind of contacted us. And it's just one of those things, like my manager calls me and he's like, so Katy Perry is like releasing a song that's based on Love You Like That. And I'm like, excuse me, what? Like, I couldn't believe it. It was just like, huh? And, you know, I'm similar, like, you know, I'm just like 2 years older than you. So she was probably like, you know, the whole Katy Perry era, which was like with, you know, I Kissed a Girl and all of those Teenage Dreams and all that, you know, that was around, I was teenager too, and I
Yes.
was a fan. And if
Hmm.
anyone's told me then that, you know, that was going to happen, I would have never believed it. But it was also one of those weird things where you like, you get so excited, but then also you think, okay, well, there, you know, is it really gonna happen? So I don't feel like I properly like celebrated until the day it was like on my streaming services, and I was like, oh my god, this is insane.
Yeah.
But nice to see, like, I mean, that just shows like how, you know, music travels over such large distances, and you know, it doesn't matter if you're in somewhere east or south or north or west, like you can all like kind of connect with the same music. And it's fun because I've been obviously like inspired by her when I was growing up and just
Mhm.
started songwriting and stuff. And it's very cool that I like, you know, for this one track got to like be part of kind of inspiring her, I guess.
Yeah.
And I really liked the song as well, which was thank God, no.
It's such a
No,
good
but
song.
I liked it. Yeah, I thought it was a really cool song for her. And obviously it was just after that like album, what was it, with
Witness.
them, which was slightly different and a kind of
Hmm.
a little bit of a different route for her. So it felt like a little bit of a, you know, pop queen like comeback almost with
Yeah,
that
it
song.
did.
It
And she
was
got
so
the
fun.
hair back and everyone. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was she suits that style, and not a lot of, you know, obviously like music goes in trends, and it's periods where, you know, this is really working, and it feels like kind of that kind of pop that she does and that I also do, and a lot of, you know, a lot of other pop female singers, you know, it's kind of been a little bit like, it's almost like become niche over a period of
Hmm.
time.
Hmm.
You know, when you've had like way more kind of urban like infused like music, and more like kind of mellow and cool like Post Malone and that stuff. So it's like, I really just hope that, you know, that kind of music and that kind of pop, which I love so much, just kind of gets to stick around, and that people don't stop doing it, because it's such a pick me up, and I think a lot of people need that.
Yes. That's what
Mm.
when I think of like somebody, it's just like pure like euphoria. Like it just feels so good and so fun. And I was gonna ask you about that because it's a weird moment in pop music that like pop music. I mean, okay, so it was like the Katy Perry, Lady Gaga types that dominated for like 2008 to 2014, you know? And now it
Exactly.
seems like hip hop is taking over, right? And it's all like the Drakes and the Post Malones, and every now and then Taylor Swift will get a hit up there. And it's
Yeah,
yeah, it's very hip hop dominated. So it's kind of hard. It seems like all the pop girls are kind of having to like reconfigure how where they are and like how to present music. But I think it's like it's not going away, you know, like we still have like I think about Dua Lipa's success and
yes.
like how massive of a hit Don't Start Now is. Like it's not like, you know, it's not like pop is dying. This kind of pop is dying. It's just kind of
I,
you have to readjust.
I think you're absolutely right, and I think that's like natural that it's like that. I mean, like you look back at a big period, like when I was growing up, it was super like indie and like indie bands, and everyone was like playing guitar, and you know, and suddenly like there was a period where everyone was like, "Do not bring a guitar into the studio," like, you know, it's like all the time is changing and like moving, and I think that's like, I think that's just how it is. I mean, that's how
Yeah.
it always has been, and it doesn't mean that people don't appreciate a lot of music that's not like super trendy at the moment, and it doesn't mean that like everyone has to go and like reinvent themselves. But it just
Hmm.
means like that's just like how music is and how
Yeah.
it moves. Uh, But I'm just like, I'm just glad that, you know, that like, because I mean, as a musician and as an artist, like if you were going to constantly be affected by that and let that define kind of who you are and what kind of sounds you're going to do and what kind of music you're doing, obviously you're terrified of being like, a lot of people are terrified of being called like outdated and stuff. But it's like, at the end of the day, you got to do you. You got to like
Hmm.
do your own thing, and you got to like stick with that. And you can be inspired by different things, obviously, like, throughout your career, but you shouldn't go like changing just because everyone is like telling you, oh no, we don't do that right now, we do it like this.
Yeah.
Because impossible, I think, to keep up with, both in music and in like life. So.
And I think that's what the fans connect to, you know, and that's what my next question, because it's like, I think you still have at least in the States over here, you have a very loyal following, I think. And I think it's funny that a lot of them are gay. It's a lot of like gay men that I talk about pop music to. And we're like, Dagny? Yeah, you know Dagny? And it's like, it's so funny that, you know, like you're overseas across in another continent and gay men over here have such like a love for you. So I wanted to see your thoughts on that, if you were even aware that the gays love your music.
I'm so happy that like that's how it is, and that I do. And I have noticed a little bit, like, obviously, like, I wish I could travel around much more and like tour much more, because I would just love to come and like meet you all.
Yes.
And notice, and it's a very supportive community, and it's really nice, and like it's a community, you know, where I do feel like people are like, you know what, I'm gonna be myself and I'm gonna do my thing. And also, like, I mean, just like aesthetically, obviously now I'm like sitting in a horrible.
That's an aesthetic as well. A gray sweatshirt, yes.
But for me, I take a lot of pride in like the visual side of things, and like being like daring, like even to like be a little bit different, like when I'm on stage, and like, you know, if I want to put on like a massive red like shiny coat, like I don't necessarily go to the shop like that, or sometimes I even do, but like I kind of want to do that. And I feel like that community is also like drawn to that, and daring to be over the top, and not feeling like, oh, hey, I'm just like that person next door and I'm just gonna have like my t-shirt and sweatpants on. And I think that's really cool. Like, that's a way of expressing yourself, and I really love it. Yeah, so I'm very happy you tell me that, because that's that's really good.
Yes.
Well, I hope I can more soon, so we can like actually like hang out.
Yes, I mean, yeah, as soon as the tour comes, as soon as we're allowed to go to concert, I miss live music so much. But as soon as you're over in the States, I'll be there at least, and a few of my friends will be there. We're really excited I'm excited about this album release. I'm excited. It's so fun. And I think you're right. I think we do need, like, we're in the middle of a pandemic, we're all trapped at home in our homes, but we still need like music, and especially feel good music that tells a story. And I think this is a part of that. So I'm excited for your album. Yes.
And I mean, like, as everything else in your life, when times get tough, like, you can't just like be like, you know what, I'm just gonna sit down and do nothing. I'm just gonna like you have to kind of continue and like, you know, move forward and find ways of motivating yourself, or like, you know, pushing ahead. So I mean, I think like for whatever it's worth, I think like this pandemic also is like, we're teaching, like maybe we're learning something as well from it. So maybe and that's all we can, like, you know, we could just bring that with us, I think. For
sure. I think it's so funny that, like, I've been thinking, obviously we have a lot of time for self-reflection. And it's a lot of like kind of trying to understand myself and what makes me happy outside of work and outside of like doing things, you know. And that's so I've been like picking up new hobbies. Like, I've been like trying to like propagate plants and like reading more books and trying to find things that make me happy, you know.
And I think it's so fun. Like, actually, one thing that I really like is that, what is the one thing that I feel like everyone is turning to now when people suddenly are like needing to like find ways to find peace, and also like keeping themselves bit busy, is like sewing, crafting, like potting plants, everything that's like handwork. And I feel like a lot of people have maybe like a little bit underestimated how important those things can be, and how like peace, like how it can like quiet, you know, it's there's some kind of meditation almost to it. And, you know, we're constantly in our daily life, like running off to this and this and this, and on our phone while we're reading the newspaper, while we're trying to have a conversation with the barista and ordering a coffee. And it's like, you know what, maybe like we also needed to be reminded that, you know, it's okay to maybe take it a step, like a notch down. And doesn't mean that you're not productive or that you're not moving ahead, but it's just like, you can actually spend an evening at home, like trying to like knit yourself the next winter hat, and it's actually kind of nice.